Well, Miss Karla, they tell me after 20 years, you're shutting it down. Just not shutting it down, but here, I cannot believe that we're kind of writing another chapter after 20 years of you and I working together. It's been unbelievable. Who introduced you? Who brought you to Cornerstone and said, hey, you need to meet these folks and they need to meet you?
Funny story, I got a gig to sing for a Mary Kay convention. They wanted like a big gospel number to start out the convention in downtown Dallas. And several of the singers from Cornerstone were also on that gig.
I was new to the genre of contemporary worship. And Mark Craig, my predecessor, he said, hey, I want you to get involved with this contemporary worship program and you can kind of do what you want. And I remember when you came in, when you sang, it was different than what I thought. And this giant voice came booming out of your lungs, and everybody thought, what in the world? And it was awesome, and Eric was great, and we had so much fun in those days.
It was a lot of fun. We were we were very creative, kind of jazzy. Yeah, R&B. We did some light rock and roll. We weren't quite, weren't quite rock and roll yet, but we just had fun, and we enjoyed, all the time.
And then I think after 10 years, we just said, wait a minute, Karla's been here and she's got the best feel for what works and doesn't work. Let's put her in charge. And so you kind of took over the whole program.
I look around this room today and I really see a lot of belief in the Lord. And I see a lot of belief in the Lord as Savior.
Well, you made it your church home, and I remember being so grateful for that. And one thing I learned very quickly that was so far beyond your musical gifts, which are amazing, but you have such an authentic sensibility about who you are, that you developed a relational capital with the congregation immediately. And it was significant, it was deep, and I do remember thinking, wow, this young lady has immediate relational capital. And I think that's what worked so much in terms of your worship leading. It was not just the quality and or even the style of the music. It was that, oh, no, we connect with this young lady for some reason.
Right.
Did you feel that?
Well, on purpose, we would play at people's homes. They,
we made house calls.
Yes, that's what you do. If you're going to build relationships, you have to get out. So I remember one time we were literally singing at someone's kitchen sink, and we were in the kitchen. And the rest of their family was in the living room, and they had one of those, window things that opened up. So they opened up the windows, and we were singing at the kitchen sink. And we kept making jokes about we're singing over the kitchen sink.
And I know we recorded several things along the way.
We did. Some things worked, some things didn't.
You all went to the studio.
Yes.
Some worked, and some captured the essence of what it was like on stage live, and some didn't. But it was fun to try.
Yes. I remember going into the studio, and remember we did that movie that one time. Do you remember the movie we did? We were in like a movie scene, a church scene. I believe that was at Munger, right?
Yeah,
we filmed it over there.
Before we got involved with Munger,
yes.
They were filming a movie at Munger that we got involved with.
Yes. So we were in that movie, and so we had to do the one song we had to record a song for that movie. So that was, So we got, if you search for that, if you search for our names, it comes up on that movie.
In time, you think about this, you go from singing to running the whole contemporary music program. And then somewhere along the way, I think it was during COVID or something, I know George Floyd had happened, and we were at a place where we thought we've got to do some different things in terms of addressing racial justice. Yes. Our place is a predominantly white church. What does that mean to be so influential in Dallas, and how do we speak into that? And we didn't really know what to do. And I remember having multiple conversations with you.
Right.
We've been on multiple trips. We talked about so many different topics over the year at a very relational level. And I remember saying, well, let's just put somebody in charge and maybe Karla would be the one to do it. You talk about those early conversations.
Yeah, so, even going back, I mean, you were not one of those leaders who, made decisions from your office and, like you always came in and talked to the band. Like you always sat down with us and we were always talking about our different cultures and getting to know each other because literally we were doing life together. And so you
We
were
were
a part of
figuring it
those.
out.
You're right, yes. You were a part of those conversations and we were our family. Like we literally were all friends. And so when that happened during the pandemic and you called and you was like, our church, we need to respond in some sort of way. Let's, start a conversation. Let's figure out how can we respond. So yeah, we figured it out and we put the framework on the ministry and rolled it out for everyone. So.
Well, I know, folks, one day they'll probably look at this interview in the immediate future, but I hope that in the distant future too, people will look back and say, well, what happened in that era of Highland Park. One of the things that happened, I referenced it a minute ago, was relational capital. I remember thinking we need some kind of an awakening into who we are as a church. And I remember thinking, if I bring in someone to help guide us through that process, but they're not from here and they don't have relational capital, like a consultant, I thought, I just don't know if that's going to work. And I thought, well, Karla has more relational capital than the rest of us combined. And I really thought when Karla speaks the truth, even if we didn't want to hear it, we so valued your friendship, and you had 15 years at that point, 15 years of longevity worshiping with this entire community. I thought, when Karla tells us something, we listen. Even if we don't agree with it, we listen and we will consider, maybe that's something we need to think about. And so that was kind of the genesis of that. And I also always like to hire folks not out of their normal job description, but if they just have gifts in that area, let's find a way. Let's find a way to get those gifts employed. And this was one of those. I thought Karla speaks grace and truth together with a mighty powerful punch. But it's a punch that we respect because we know she loves us and we love her. And so that's kind of where that came from. And you have done you've done unbelievable work for this church. And when I asked you to do that and you started that, what were some of the early challenges? What were some of the early victories? You looking back on it.
Well,
what do you think?
Talking about us being perfectionists, so that doesn't just go for the band. Like we're all perfectionists. And I remember the charge was, well, we need to train the staff. We need you to train the staff, and we need you to, roll it out right now. And I thought, I haven't written anything. Like I don't.
What is it? Roll it out. What is it?
I'll need a year to write something or something. So, and we did. We had someone to come, from outside, and we started the training. And then after a while, I remember you saying, "Okay, we want to hear from you." So we pivoted, from that. But that was one of the first things of just panic. I was just like, Lord, I haven't written anything yet. How can I start training before?
Yet another example that none of us had a playbook.
Yeah, we did it.
We brought in some help that was thoughtful help.
Yes.
But I learned real quickly that it was not about the content.
Right.
It was about who was speaking the content. And the content and any kind of consultants that we brought in, they could be saying the same thing. But there was an attention to what you were saying that was heightened over what they were saying. And so we said, okay, wait a minute, let's write.
And from that, we launched the sharing prayer, in which we have members of our staff that get in front of us and share their family story. And we found that.
Where'd that come from? Where'd that idea come from in your heart?
After we had the outside person come in and we wanted to pivot, we start thinking what really would mean the most to us. And that's when we started, talking with staff members, and we were kind of meeting. I had a group, and we were meeting, and we were talking amongst ourselves, and the group was very diverse. And we were talking and sharing our stories, and then we thought, well, what if we do this in front of the entire staff? And so the share and prayer, came out of that.
I will always contend that the share and prayer is one of the greatest things that's been started here at the church in a long, long time. It has really been transformative to hear the stories of staff members, family members that I've been working alongside with, in some case for decades, and you think you know about them, and really you don't know anything about them. And then we would have Cambodian staff members, African American staff members, Hispanic, Latino staff members, and they would share their stories, simple stories about this is what it's like to pull up in the parking lot.
Right.
And this is how we feel. And I remember thinking, wow, this is transformative. And there's no shaming or telling anybody this is how you ought to feel. It was simply creating a safe environment where folks could share and reveal something about themselves that other people in the room would have no idea.
Right.
And when you open that box, all these blessings flowed out of it. And I got to know, still do, get to know staff members on a level that it never occurred to me.
Right.
And then from there, that begins to shape policy and values and the things that you think and profess to be important for your organization.
Yes.
Out of a simple hour session of somebody sharing about their life and then us as a group praying over and with that person. Two, we've done a lot with Richie Butler. We've done a lot with Together We Dine. Talk about the Together We Dine stuff and how that's impacted
the
us.
Together We Dine has been wonderful. You sit around in a circle and you have a meal, and you get to be led in a conversation about race, about racism, and everything is pre-prepared on a card. But the thing is, everyone gets to share. So if you have never had the opportunity to even think about race or racism, or let alone talk about it, you're going to say something in the conversation. But the atmosphere that's set is, one of a loving, kind atmosphere. So if you're saying, oh, I don't know what to say, that's good. And then someone else around the table will talk. But we launched into that, and our church was able to give, some of the seed money to get that started, and our congregation rallied around it in a huge way.
And they're going all over. Richie and that program now are going all over the United States.
Yes, outside of Dallas now.
All over the United States, just having people around a meal.
Yes.
And that's one thing I've learned from you is that so oftentimes transformation and conversion does not just come from an information exchange or logic. It comes from being in a relationship.
Absolutely.
And just by the quality of that relationship, in time, the empathy quotient goes up, the awareness quotient goes up, and then people are willing to consider all kind of things. We've been on several trips, the pilgrimages, those continue to go strong. They're going to continue. We're going to continue to run those, even without you, although it's going to be hard. But talk about those a little bit.
So yes, the pilgrimages are absolutely transformative. We fly somewhere, and we've gone to Tulsa, we've gone to Little Rock, we've done Memphis. We get together as a group and go and take in all of this information. Now, the information is usually like devastating because we're trying to grapple with, how did this happen?
Sure.
Why didn't we prevent?
It's an unspeakable part of our nation's history.
Part of our history. And so we get together, but then the thing about it is you are forming these relationships with people. You could be, a member of Cornerstone, and then you meet somebody from the sanctuary, and, or meet someone from the youth, or, someone that you've yet to come in contact with, and you're taking this journey with them, and you're holding each other up. Because there have been tears, there have, all kinds of emotions, and you're getting to know someone as both of you all are taking in this information together. Do the whole thing the weekend, and then we come back, and we have found that those groups do not break up. Like they still continue to
They still roll.
Yes, to communicate with each other and care about each other. And the pilgrimages have been, I don't know, I guess if you could say our shining star, you could say that, but they very transformative.
They've been transformative. That's a word that gets bandied around a lot, but in this case, they truly are transformative. And the one I went on years ago with those young men and women, we went to Selma, we went to Montgomery, we went to Little Rock, we went to Jackson, Mississippi, where they have an incredible museum. And the content was important, but it was the relational proximity and the experience and the experiential quotient that happened inside the context of that relationship that moved people's hearts.
Right.
And I've just always thought, only Karla could achieve this. And I've seen you walk in a room, and while the content may be sharp, the defensiveness just goes down, and the hostility just goes away, and nobody feels shame or guilt. There's just an awareness that goes up, and and you've been able to achieve something that I just will always believe not many people can achieve, and so it's been awesome. What do you hope happens? You're going to go do some other things. We'll talk about that too here in a second. But what do you hope happens with the Justice Ministry as we go forward?
I would love for it to just, number one, continue and grow. We've laid the foundation for it, and I would love for more people just to hit that button and sign up and say, yes, I want to, I want to attend. I'll go to it. Together we dine. And because we have set the atmosphere that we're not judging anybody.
Right.
But we need to have these conversations so that we can grow together.
Well, it's been remarkable the level at which it's had an impact on the church. What are you going to do now? Now, you've had some different calls on your life. Seminary's one, spoiler alert.
Yes.
Not just music. You started, your primary gift originally was music, and now you've recognized that, your impact is a lot bigger than just music. So what are you gonna be doing?
So I'm in seminary, and I'm just starting. So I'll continue with that, and I'll go and work in the United Methodist Church in the Houston area in the Texas Conference, and be ordained. And
how much more time do you have in that program?
Oh my goodness.
4 light years?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the way it always feels.
They tell me not to count, so I do not count.
Yeah.
I just take it one day at a time. But it has been a joy. I mean, talk about the Lord pull the rug from under you. Because I went into seminary because of being the director of the Justice Ministry.
Right.
I thought I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with everything and doing what I can. And I think the Lord broadened my focus and opened my eyes to a couple of things that I could be doing for the church. And
that's a big step. And as I think back on you trying to figure out what songs we're going to sing in worship in a gymnasium with 50 folding chairs, to now going to seminary and really expanding the scope of your ministry, that's pretty cool.
Yes.
And for people that are not familiar with our organization or our church or what we're all about, one of the things we say, a value that we always uphold, is that we want you to be better off for having been here. And we want the church to be better off, because I've always contended that everybody is just passing through. We all arrive on a certain date, and all of us leave at some point, whether you retire or get sick or married or move or whatever. And when you leave, I hope that you're better off, and I hope the church is better off. In this case, I look back on your 20-year career here, and I know without hesitation how great the church is better off because of what you have done. But I've watched you grow from a musician with a very specific set of gifts and graces to this far-reaching, influential minister. And I think, okay, well, she's better off too.
Absolutely.
So in that case, we don't always get this right, but in your case, wow, I feel pretty good about this. I've told you this before, but this is something else I want people 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now to see. All of us have gifts and graces, and we show up at whatever our work is, and we may be serviceable at our job, right? We may be a great lawyer or a great doctor or a great preacher or a great mechanic, and that's well and good. Very few people totally take an organization that's going one way and influence it to go another way, or the same with a human being, right? Very few of us, we're transactional in a very meaningful way, but very few of us are transformative on someone else's life. I hope that when you go to bed at night, you know, wow, I've helped transform one of the greatest churches in the country. Your work has transformed who we are as a church, and I know individually you've helped transform, you know, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of lives that have been touched by your work. But I do know that on behalf of the organization, you're one of the few folks who think, okay, the work that you have done was not just serviceable, and we didn't just get to experience your gifts and graces, we have been transformed by it. And you're humble enough to not let that get to your head.
Not at
but I
all.
hope you'll let it go to your heart, and I hope you'll know that, wow, in 20 years, you've really helped move the needle on what Highland Park Methodist is all about. And I'll forever be indebted and grateful.
Thank you.
And I want to be prayerful for you and for your family
Thank you.
as you embark on the new chapter. Well, look, we love you.
Thank
and,
you. Love you too.
Blessings to you, and I can't wait to
you.
see how it unfolds in the
Thank
future.
you. Thank you.